I want to ask you, what's it like using your voice for 50 hours straight, just freestyling?
Yeah, so we just broke the Guinness World Record for the longest rap. It's still unofficial. There's the mushroom trip that I could speak on that kind of changed the game. That kind of really showed me my power and broke me out of a lot of bullshit. Because really, to get that degree was just a bunch of remembering and then regurgitating, and it didn't really prove that I number one learned anything.
Hello, everybody. I'm with Fungi Flows. How's it going, man?
Man, living the dream. I know maybe that's a little played out and cliche, but literally, we living in the dream. How you feeling, brother?
Oh my goodness, I'm feeling good. And when you said that, living in a dream, it actually reminded me of your album that you made. And it kind of has that vibe sort of with it. And I'll
And
be going.
which one is that? Dying to Live or Resurrection?
It was Resurrection.
Okay, word.
Yeah. So I wanted to before I wanted to talk about the album too, because I was diving into like a lot of conscious rap, and like yours is kind of like one of them that came up. But I want to ask you, what's it like using your voice for 50 hours straight, just freestyling? What was that like for Guinness Book of World Records?
Yeah, so we just broke the Guinness World Record for the longest rap. It's still unofficial. We're submitting all the paperwork, so we should know here soon. But I mean, a lot of ways that was the greatest challenge in my life. There's been many challenges, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I'm 36 years old. I've been through a lot. But this was different. This was one of those like instances where there's so much riding on my back, and there's so many people behind me that like it's hard to say no. Like a lot of challenges in life is like, okay, well, if you give up, you're only letting down yourself. You know what I mean? But if I gave up in that instance, I was going to be letting down literally hundreds up to thousands of people. You know what I mean? So I've never had that kind of pressure. So the challenge was unique in that way of like, there's a lot of energy riding upon, this from training from 6 hours all the way up to 50 hours. So I mean, I could talk about it for literally hours, but it was game changing for me. It was painful, it was beautiful, it was all sides of the spectrum from the beginning to the end. We were scared at times, we were joyful at times. It was a celebration. It was a struggle. Uh, yeah. So I mean, feel free to ask specific questions, but it was a lot. We'll put it that way.
Oh my goodness. When I think about that, it's like I wouldn't even like I man, I've tuned into that on Instagram twice. I tuned into the one that was, I think it was 24 hours, right? You did 24 hours first.
I did 6, 12, 18, and 24. 24 was one of the first that we like streamed with any level of professionalism. So that was the first one a lot of people saw.
Yeah, man. I tuned into the one that's 24 hours, and I bragged about it at my class. I go to AV college over here in Orlando, and I just like, yo, this you gotta check out Fungi Flows. He rapped for 24 hours straight. So it's like it's just like something that I wanted to brag about. People, my the person next to me was like, no way. It's like, but yeah, I thought that was like really interesting. I wouldn't even be able to me personally, that is a challenge. That's a crazy challenge because I wouldn't even I could barely said like I have I even stayed up longer than 24 hours before. And doing that, just doing one thing repetitively, I wonder where your mind goes. Like, do you just it's just like, is it kind of like all blur?
No, not really. I mean, because I trained, I was able to like, work my way up incrementally to know what I'm getting into. I think if I just jumped into the 50, number one, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. And number two, I wouldn't have stayed as grounded as I did. So I learned some different practices and techniques to sort of like stay present, because with sleep deprivation comes delusions. Anybody could tell you that hasn't slept for a while, that you start to see things, you start to hear things you don't know. It's tough to decipher from what's real and what's not. So we getting into the whole world of like what's real. It's funny, we started with the whole "is this a dream?" There's a lot of Matrix themes in the album, so I guess that's sort of like this subject that comes along with being the fungi and psychedelics in general, and then this super long rap marathon. It all does get kind of trippy. It's and the thing I kind of deduced in the end, one of the greatest takeaways was I realized that rap marathons are actually my favorite drug.
Right
Doing what
on.
I love, doing what I love for a really long time gave me a very spiritual high that didn't have the downsides of different drugs and substances. It just was really painful, like I said, but it's a beautiful thing.
Well, yeah, that's really interesting. The yeah, because yeah, you definitely like start to like feel all sorts of interesting stuff, especially like being up for that long. But yeah, I was and I of course we were just talking about the album and I was listening to that I do my best to like kind of like critically listen to an album and a little bit. And this one actually just like lyrically, I'm like more into like kind of the lyrical side of hip hop. And what you said it said you said in this one is I wrote it down. What did that get me? Just a whack degree that proved to move a couple clogs in the factory. And so what led you to write like that or write these lyrics?
What did that get me? Just a whack degree that proved I
I
moved a
feel like it's
couple
just
cogs in the
obvious, but
factory.
I'd
Yeah,
like to
yeah.
get your take on this.
No, no. There's layers to everything, so the question's always appreciated. Um, but that song specifically was about the American dream and us being sold sort of a lie, in sense of like the way you have to do things. Like, you're told you have to go to college to get this degree, to do these certain jobs, to have any level of success. And that is the story that, our parents and their parents and this system has sold us. Um, and I feel like, yeah, like I grinded for 5 years. I got my civil and environmental engineering degree. But what did that prove? Because really, to get that degree was just a bunch of remembering and then regurgitating. And it didn't really prove that I number one learned anything or could really
Yeah,
apply anything. And so the whole like download behind that song is basically to tap into what's your purpose and your passions, to follow what you love and to do that, and to stay persistent with it. It might not always pay off, in the moment you need it to. And maybe there's some privilege in that. Maybe some people don't have, that ability to wait. But I was blessed with the freedom, or maybe I created the freedom to take the time and put the effort into the art, to the point in which now it's finally starting to pay off. So that's sort of my message to everybody, is like, you don't have to be another cog in machine and do what you were told and get this thing and follow steps A to Z. There's another way, and it doesn't have to be as extreme as what I took it to be hitchhiking and eating out of dumpsters and doing whatever the fuck it is, being a
yeah, of
starving
course.
artist to get here. But there's levels to it. And there's so many different things we could do to take a path that is different than the path that we are sold.
That's one thing I wonder, what caused like our parents or like maybe our grandparents. I wonder if it's just scarcity at the time or just like you had to like work at a job for like your entire life pretty much in a factory and like try to like make things happen. I don't know what's your take on that personally, if you if you think there is something behind that.
I think there's a lot of deep religious programming that creates traditions. I think that's really big. Um, but like there was just like a vibe of like strictness. I don't even know if strictness is a word, but like just fucking being strict. Like, I could think back to when I first started school and they still had the paddle. And I mean, the paddle was barely used, but like generation
Whoa.
before, kids were getting beaten in schools. Um, wives and children were being beaten at homes. Like, I mean, there was just this vibe of like necessary for like there to be like this extreme discipline. There was an imbalance with like this overly toxic patriarchal masculine energy that kind of like ran the show. And I feel like now we're finally coming into a balance here. And we don't need it to be this super logical laid out path that's at like unbalanced, like overly all masculine energy of like, do this thing, follow these steps. This is the only way. This is what I did. This is what you have to do. And there's definitely a lot of scarcity and fear that's all tied into those programs. So absolutely the parent having the fear of like, if you don't do these steps that we're pretty sure are going to get you there, then there's a fear that you're not going to have the money that you need to be successful. That's going to make me look bad. And then there's a whole, a bunch of programs that are running of just all that bullshit,
It's
so.
generational.
And that's just one example, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was thinking when you said we were talking about like the religious programming, but it's like very masculine energy. It's like there's got to be like, I mean, we obviously, I mean, I feel like this, like there's got to be like a balance between like the feminine energy and masculine energy. And it's just like things just go out of whack if it's just like one side or the other, if it's too much of one side.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
Exactly. Balance, baby. Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Do you believe in aliens?
I love the tangent. That's beautiful. Uh, I don't know. I guess the first response I want to kind of give back to that is like, or would aliens be a belief? You know what I mean? It's kind of like that would be asking me like, do you believe in humans? Like, is that something you can believe in or not believe in? It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I mean, like, you could take the word aliens in so many different ways, but I mean, to answer that in the way that you're probably asking it is just like, I mean, could you not believe in aliens? Could you possibly believe that, there's no other beings that are from, outside of here or from inside of here? From whatever perspective you're looking at it, an alien would be a being that we're not used to. That could be the mushrooms that came here from potentially from another planet.
Yeah.
That could be the fucking reptilians or the bird people or the whatever like we could go on and on. I don't know what I do believe or not believe about space. Um, but regardless of if there's anything outside of this planet or not, um, even if we look within our planet, I'm sure we could find some creatures that we wouldn't be familiar with. So I think within us, without us. Oh, sorry. Just drinking some kombucha. I got some burps. In the planet, outside the planet, on the planet, in the microcosm, the macrocosm, and inside the depths of the fractal, wherever you're looking, up, down, left, right, in, out, I think you're always going to find something that's a little bit foreign to what you're used to.
Yeah. I and because I don't know what to believe in exactly because I feel like I had like interdimensional encounters before. Have you ever felt like you had like something like that?
Interdimensional encounters. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, like interdimensional beings, like through like a dream state or maybe even like a psychedelic experience.
Um, I've definitely dealt with like elemental beings and certain entities in the DMT realm. Mostly on DMT. I don't typically access those states too much on other substances. Um, but nothing like super life changing that sticks with me. But yeah, I've had short encounters with different personalities that have their own agenda, have their own intentions and whatnot. But yeah, mostly just in those states.
When's the first time you like actually I feel like this would be a good question because I want to ask this question that like I feel like a lot of people would like to know this actually. So again, out of this probably out of this topic, or I don't know if it'll lead to it, but how did you become Fungi Flows? How did you become Fungi Flows where it led to you freestyling and around the country?
That's another great question. There's a lot of different timelines to answer that question. Like I was not Fungi Flows when I started freestyling around the country. I was just going by my name, Parker Webb. Um, so there's a lot of things. I mean, there's my first mushroom trip. There's the mushroom trip that I could speak on that kind of changed the game. That kind of really showed me my power and broke me out of a lot of bullshit. And then there's like a purpose spark retreat that kind of like logically put it all in perspective. Okay, the mushrooms changed my life, the music's changed my life. Let's put them together. Mushrooms plus music. I'm a rapper already, rapper named Fungi. It just all made sense. Um, I could speak on the specific trip that kind of changed the game if you wish, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways I can answer that. Okay.
please do.
So yeah, I'm actually thinking about making a song out of this. I wrote it in rap form. This I would argue was probably the most impactful day in my life. I'd like to call it the best day in my life in a lot of ways. It was dark, it was light, it was rough, it was beautiful, but it really overall led to me breaking out of I would say like a 5 year cannabis fog that really had me just like, kind of floating around, not really having much direction in life. So really, really, really long story short, um, because this could be a whole podcast within itself, just this trip. Um, Basically I took a half ounce of mushrooms, didn't really even know how much I was taking. It was just handed it to me. I was in a trap house in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. Um, and it was like 3, 4 in the morning. Um, and I just like ate these like a bag of potato chips and was just sitting there on the couch. And I never experienced mushrooms to this degree. Like I've had little trips and whatnot. Like I've had like a couple grams or a cut or whatever, but this was like something different. And I could already tell just like sitting there on the couch, the tapestry starts moving. It's coming alive. And I'm like, already this is at a new level. And I'm like, okay, like, wow, all right. So then I started to like get out of the couch and feel a little more activated because my whole life was just bong rip after bong rip after bong rip. And um, I did a lot, but I was really addicted to the cannabis, and I was just like, just really in this fog. But I started to break out of it and just like walking around the room, talking to different artists, and like sort of like using my power to control what's going on in the room. Like I changed the music and started doing some art, and then my power just kept growing and growing. My awareness was growing. My desire to do more was growing. So I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here. So I leave the apartment. Um, and I just go out into the street, and we were pretty much in the hood. Um, and I walked out into this big intersection. It was like a weird 5-way intersection. I sat down right under the red light, and I just took my clothes off and got down to my boxers, sat there, and just felt like I needed to start meditating. So I'm like literally in the middle of the road. There's really no cars coming by. It's like I said, it's 3 in the morning. Um, and I'm looking at this traffic light in front of me, the green, red, yellow. Um, and something just clicked. And this was like the point of like everything started to shift in my life. And I was just like breaking through some old mental fog bullshit and just like coming in the power of my mind. And it's like something just snapped in my synapses in my brain. And I was like, whoa, okay. It's like a wake up moment. I'm like, all right, like I can control this right here. So I use my mind. It's impossible to describe, but I use my mind to change the stoplight from red to green to yellow, whatever it will. And I could do it with my mind, like boom, 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 boom. Like, okay. I don't really
Well,
know if this is real or not, but like I'm doing this, right? Um, so not long after that, this car rolls up, and it's like this old 70s, like Oldsmobile kind of a vibe. These people lean out the window and they're like, "Hey, how do I get to so and so street?" And I was just like, "I don't know. I'm not from around here." And then they drive away. And I look over at their car, and a car's driving down the street, and it already got like 3 blocks away. And that thing hit me again when I was looking at the traffic lights. I was like, "Oh shit! Like I'm controlling my reality." And this is where it started to get a little bit spooky. I didn't understand the power I was tapping into, but what I did is I looked at their car, and in my mind, I stopped their car and I brought it back to me. So I watched from 3 blocks away this car put its reverse lights on and go back through an intersection, back through another intersection, and then came right back to me. And this is where it started to get really fucking weird. They looked at me again, but this time, instead of being a normal person, they had this just like dumb look on their face, like I had hijacked their mind, controlled it, and they were not in their head anymore. And they looked at me kind of like a ghost of a person and was like, "Do you know how to get to whatever street?" And I was like, "Oh shit, fuck, fuck, fuck." And then it hit me at that moment. It's like, I shouldn't have done that, you know? So then it was like this whole trip of like understanding the responsibility of our power and like what's the limits of our power and what can we do. So, very, like I said, long story short, I tested all these limits of reality, trying to put my hand through matter, trying to teleport, trying to do all these different things. I almost stole a car. Um, just like, what can we do and what can we not do? I needed to understand, like, if we're gods in the flesh, if we can control our reality like Bruce Almighty, then what's the limits? Then I started to turn the street lights on and off. I started to make the sun come up and come down. I started to make the birds chirp at a different, like a symphony, like I was conducting an orchestra. And then I turned down this alleyway. And right before I turned down this alleyway, I had this bad thought. And I was just like, I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was like, I think I'm lost now and I don't know how to get home. It was just the first seed of fear. But I was in this realm where instant manifestation was happening. So it was like the second I thought something, it happened. So the second I thought that, the whole sky went dark. The vibe got bad. I got scared. I walked down this alley and this like dwarf guy just like apparated in front of me, like appeared out of nowhere. He was holding on to his dick and he basically gestured like to try to get me to suck his dick. Like, I don't know if we could cuss on this podcast or not. You got to censor that. But
Oh, you're good.
it was fucking freaky. I'm
That's
like
weird.
alone. I'm alone in this alley with this dark, gangly looking troll figure.
Did you think this person was real?
I
Or was
did
it?
in that moment. I
Okay.
did in that moment absolutely think that person was real. Yeah, true fear in that moment. But I kind of snapped out of it quickly and I was like, "Oh, that's right. I'm controlling this. And if I give this person any attention, it's going to be really bad." So I just completely shifted my focus away. And my focus was like laser sharp, powerful in that moment. So as soon as I took my mind off him, looked forward down the alley and was like, I want to get home. Like I switched back to positive. Like, I can get home. This person's not even here right now. Fuck all that. Like, and I really think we have that power in everyday reality, whether we're tripping or not. Like, it's just shift our attention and like the beggar or the whatever's trying to get whatever from us, like we could blow past that. So to just fast forward the end of the story, um, I walked around for a little while longer and I was standing in this place and I was just like, you know what? I bet you any money that I can get back to where I need to get to through the power of my mind. And now things started to happen where I don't fully understand what happened. Looking back, I can make sense of most of what happened, but now it starts to get weird. I closed my eyes and I imagined where I needed to be, like being at the side door of the apartment of the trap house. And I opened my eyes and I was there. And I can't explain that. I don't know if, I just ran really fast and didn't remember, or I actually teleported. I can't. But I was at the door, and then I remember the whole wasn't like not like a running joke, but the whole like seed that was planted by the guy who lives there the whole time, because I had been living there for like multiple days waiting to flip this weed that we brought from the West Coast. And he's just always like, you can't really leave and get back in. Like we don't have a key. The door locks itself. And that's the whole reason, like, we were kind of depressed up in there. Is it's like, we didn't, it was hard to get a hold of the dude. We didn't want to leave and not be able to get back in. And we were waiting for our money. It was this whole weird vibe. But I was standing on the side of the door, and I swear to God, I used my mind. Once again, I can't describe how it happened, but I like went into the locking mechanism with my mind and used my mind to unlock the door. And I pushed, they have those push bars and the metal push bars, and it opened. And I walked back up in there, and I'm still in my boxers. I never put my clothes back on this whole time. Hours later, I'm still in my boxers. And I get up there, and everyone's like, "Where the fuck were you at?" Blah blah blah. And I'm just like, "Hey, I got a story for you guys." So that's basically it.
Whoa. That's actually really interesting. When I said that's crazy, what is even or weird, what is even normal? We
Right.
are these kind of like anthropomorphic, like monkey, I don't know, interesting like shaped people that drive we're the only mammalian creatures that drive cars on and fly airplanes. But what I wanted to say about that, like you said instant manifestation. I actually had this experience before, me personally, when I did a psychedelic. I was able to see the past, present, and future all at the same time. And and at this time when I was on the psychedelic, it was like almost too much. Like I was able to see what would happen. Like felt like I was really connected to the intuition. Like if I did this, this will happen, this will happen. And I just saw like the whole life thing. And then I manifested like me going to North Carolina. And I thought that was like a really interesting experience because I pictured myself being in a tiny house in North Carolina. And
Mm,
that's where I
mm,
stayed for months on end. I pretty much lived there for a little bit.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Word up. Yeah. So, that's the interesting realization of this trip is like, usually there's a time barrier with our manifestations. Like, we visualize something, we see something, it'll happen later. The time between the what we see, what we want in the manifestation varies. But, this was special in this trip, but like the only time, and I haven't done it since, that I broke through that time barrier. Like space time was like one or something. Time didn't exist and everything was an instant manifestation. But we always have that power as creators. It's just in this normal reality, grounded in time, it just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like we could even like get there through meditation or even a mindful practice. Like
Yep.
really we don't even need your meeting will end in 10 minutes. What? Okay. Well, we're actually getting close to done anyways. But yeah, it's so what was I saying? Yeah, it's pretty much like yeah, we do like sort of like we can like kind of like meditate and kind of get to that point where we're just like listen to our intuition and all this experience comes at us where we don't really need like the psychedelic. Sometimes I feel like there's like ayahuasca is big and people will dive into that, but I believe like sometimes it's just not for everybody.
Right. Yeah. I don't think anything's for everybody. That's for damn sure. I wouldn't say even mushrooms, which is one of my biggest things for everybody. But a lot of these substances they're a real similar vibe. Like the ayahuasca, the DMT, the mushrooms, they're only like a molecule away from each other or whatever. Like they bring about different experiences, but like also similar states and access to, similar realizations, and can all open up a portal to explore your inner worlds and the outer worlds, all within the same. Like I've done my fair share of ayahuasca as well. And yeah, I mean, hey, I think there's something for everybody, but I would say maybe the one thing I could say is that, you know, who is meditation not for? You know what I mean? Like, who is breath work not for? I think no matter who you are, what you're going through, what your past is, what your mental conditions and your mental health may be, I think meditation, yoga, breathing is good for everybody. And if you're blessed enough to, have the mind frame to be able to handle the psychedelics and the world beyond, then go ahead and do so with respect.
Yeah, man. So yeah, it's actually that's all the questions I had anyways. And I guess Zoom gets people or makes people want to pay for longer sessions or whatever. I don't
Yep.
know. I haven't used Zoom for long minute, but yeah, I was gonna see if I cut this in like probably like next 5 minutes anyways. Yeah, man. So what's next on your list? What do you gotta do for music wise?
Well, I'm just finishing up the Guinness evidence. That'll be in soon. I'm doing a lot like a light tour this year, about half as much as last year because I'm trying to work on the tape. So hopefully I'll have a third album out here pretty soon.
Oh, dope.
There's no concrete deadline, but that's what I'm putting energy towards. I don't know how it's gonna look. There's definitely a lot of blockages and a lot of things holding me back. Financially, things are pretty tight. Help wise with the team is kind of, I feel like, the fungi thing, it's going through maybe a death and rebirth process. There's been a lot of shifting. So, but my greatest goal would be to, before the end of the summer, put out another tape. So I don't know how that's going to happen, what it's going to look like, but it's very important to me to continue to get the music out because, like you said, that's where you heard of me, sorta, and that's where at least some impact was made. You remembering the lyrics and whatnot. So, I want to keep getting the message out there and have this next tape ready.
Cool. Fungi Flows. It's good talking to you. Let's hang out sometime when we get the chance. Much love, brother.
Absolutely, fam. Peace with you. Best of love on the podcast, and I'll talk to you shroom
Take care. Peace.
later, fam.